Okay, so we would just like to welcome everybody to the Food for Thought program that we're having today with Kayla Pohle, who is the agricultural teacher at Honesdale High School and is going to give us a secret tour of the whole program going on up there. So thank you, Kayla, for doing this for us. We're really excited.
Of course. Thank you so much, ladies. And it is kind of like a secret tour. We have not been able to have an open house yet. As you know, many events have been canceled. That is one that has been on the back burner. So this kind of is a secret tour open house, I guess, if you will. And there's a lot of green in here today. So you'll get a sneak peek of that. So as Tracy said, I'm Kayla Pohle. I'm the agriculture teacher here at the high school. And I am actually Zooming from the greenhouse. I figured if we're going to do a greenhouse tour, I might as well come out here. But it's warm out today, which means it's a lot warmer in the greenhouse. So I turned off the fan so you could hear what we're doing in here. So it's pretty warm today. But excited to share a little bit with you about what we have going on in here. So want to share the background of the agriculture program. What is aquaponics? How is that different than hydroponics? And then I'll give you a tour of the greenhouse. Now I'm a teacher, so I'm answer questions all day. So feel free to interrupt with any questions that you have. And I'll try to keep an eye on the chat, and Tracy will as well. So the agriculture program here is a 4-year program. So it starts out with freshmen, and they are enrolled in Introduction to Agriculture, a 1-year course, everything from farm to table. So in the picture you see, actually, we did a big fruit canning project. So we made jam and jelly. Then students go into either animal science or horticulture and plant science. And those are also year-long courses, but for double the amount of time. So I have kids for 90 minutes a day in here for horticulture right now, and the next year animal science will be the same way. And then I also teach a forestry class on a semester basis and an agricultural mechanics class on a semester basis that does a little bit of plumbing, electricity, small gas engines, and kind of any kind of mechanical or construction project that we find ourselves building or doing here in the agriculture program. So this is my 4th year of teaching. And so actually the first group that I had here is Introduction to Agriculture as freshmen will graduate this year.
Yay!
So as we move into actually before I get to that, we've been here for 4 years, and end of 2019, beginning of 2020, we built this structure that you see in this picture here, the greenhouse. And that we first started planting in it in January, and we were shut down in March. So kids this year is the first time that they're in here for a full year. So we're looking forward to next year, where hopefully we don't have any more interruptions and we can be growing all year long. But it's a 2,400 square foot greenhouse, and it is soil-based and aquaponics-based. And I would be remiss if I did not thank our donors and the people that made this possible. So Tractor Supply and National FFA Grants for Growing Grant helped make it possible, along with the Wayne County Community Foundation, Marshall Machinery, Monroe County LSA Grant, the Vium Foundation, and USDA Rural Development Grant. And without all of those and just an abundance of community support, this greenhouse probably wouldn't be here. So just want to say thank you to those people that make this possible. So a couple of quiz questions for you. True or false, an aquaponics system is rarely dumped and refilled?
True.
True, it is true. We have a closed loop system, and you'll see a little bit about that. True or false, aquaponics growing is organic?
True.
It's actually false. Organic is a soil-based certification, and we'll get into a little bit of that. True or false, hydroponics and aquaponics are the same?
Patty, this one's yours. They're false.
Oh, yes, false. And what makes it possible for roots to survive in the water?
Airflow.
Yes, airflow is exactly right. So yes, they need nutrients, and the fish help build those nutrients, but that airflow is super important. So what is aquaponics? So aquaponics is a system that grows plants. It's self-contained. So we don't dump it unless there's like a significant issue. We had to do it one time and hope to never ever do it again. Self-contained, we don't dump it. We really are only putting fish in and putting plants in and taking plants out and taking fish out. It recycles water, utilizes fish to produce fertilizer. So our fish live a pretty glamorous life. Their job is just to eat. That's all they're there for, is they just get to eat all the time, and they give us this wonderful amount of manure, nutrients that help the plants grow really well. So why fish?
If you need a new fish, I volunteer.
So fish excrete the waste, which contains ammonia, and ammonia is a form of nitrogen. So there's multiple forms of nitrogen that get converted to have a usable form of nitrogen for plants. So when you buy which I actually just bought some today at Agway for our soil side, when you buy like a plant food at the grocery store, at like an Agway, it's going to have N, P, and K in it: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And fish are going to give us all those and a significant amount of nitrogen, but in the form of ammonia. So then there are bacteria in the system. So bacteria grows, good bacteria grows, bad bacteria grows pretty much everywhere we are. So we have good bacteria growing in our media bed, and that converts this ammonia to nitrite and then to nitrate. I'm not going to quiz you on this. I do quiz my students on this. But essentially, we're talking about the nutrient cycle in a way that students can see it happen really, really quickly. So we can test the water in the fish tank, and we'll get high levels of ammonia. And we can test the water in our float bed, and we can get good levels of nitrate, which is what our plants are taking up. And we actually hope to see low levels of nitrate, because that means our plants are taking up that nitrate. And that's what fertilizes those plants. So there are multiple components to this system. I'm going to show you each component individually here, so that when I show you in the greenhouse, it makes a little bit more sense. So,
Kayla, question. Can you only do aquaponics in like a greenhouse situation, or could you do it in your home?
You could do it in your home. So there's actually a school, for a friend of mine is doing it in their garage, but there's a school out in Harrisburg, two schools out near Harrisburg that actually have theirs like in an atrium, like in the middle of their school. So because you can use, you're getting all the same things, except for you just provide the light. So we use sometimes, like in the winter, we'll use artificial light. And I'll show you some of our lighting in the greenhouse, but we rarely do that. Like today, I actually closed the curtain or the shade cloth on our greenhouse because it was too bright. But typically we have that open and just let the natural light through. So that's the only thing that really is different about those, is the greenhouse tends to get warmer and more humid, whereas in a school or like in a building, you're providing that artificial light and sometimes heat as well. So our first component is the fish. So we have our fish tanks, and then that water goes into what we call a media bed. And it's called a media bed because of this stuff, these rocks in here, okay? So all those rocks are what we want to have that bacteria kind of grow on. And you can use gravel, which is like a rock or a gravel, which is what we use. You can do sand. They make like a clay pebble that you can use, but we have just rock that you'd put in your driveway or in a typical fish tank, just for the bottom of it. And the rocks kind of help support large plants. So we've grown tomatoes in there. We have lots of parsley growing in there right now. We actually put a lemon tree in there. We put some boxwood in there because we had some boxwood left over and needed a place for it to go. And we needed something that would soak up some of these high levels of nutrients. So when plants go into this media bed, it's the first stop after that fish tank. So there's high levels of nutrient in there. So when we first start out, we sometimes just put snake plants and big house plants in there because, if you know, I can keep plants alive in our greenhouse, but my husband does not think I can keep plants alive in our house, which is true. He waters them, I don't. And I just struggled to keep houseplants alive. But houseplants are super forgiving, and that's why we like them, because you can forget to water them for a week and they're still going to be okay. You can put a little too much nutrients on them and they'll be okay, and you can give them no nutrients and they'll be okay. So in the media bed, when we have high levels of nutrients, it's okay for those plants. And so we kind of use that as almost a buffer. And then it goes into what we call our float bed. And our float bed is, in this picture, you can see there is a styrofoam rack with holes in it, and that just floats on top of a bed of water. So float bed, and the roots stick through and the plants grow on top.
It's awesome. It is.
So we use what's called Rockwool, and I'll show you some of it when we get in the greenhouse, and that sits in there so they have something that's kind of more sturdy to hold them up. And then the roots grow out the bottom into the water. And in this tank of water, you guys were right, airflow is super important. So we've always heard people tell us, and Patty, you can tell me if I'm wrong on this or not, but this is how I always explain it. People tell us all the time that we can drown plants. And I always tell them, no, we can't drown our plants, because I have an aquaponics bed that's full of water and these plants don't drown. They're okay, they don't die in there. But the big thing is that airflow. We have to have airflow, or in soil, we call it pore space, or space between the soil. That's why they put those little white pebbles in your soil mix. That's called perlite. That kind of keeps that open space in there. So we can suffocate them, I guess, if we take away all their airflow. But in there, if we have a significant amount of airflow, then those plants do just fine. And the float bed is really good for really small plants. So that's the main system that you're gonna see in production today. There's another portion that's not in production, I'll show it to you, but they're called Nft Racks, or nutrient film transfer. We just call them NFT, or the plant nursery. And it's great for lettuce, and it's great for really, really small plants. Essentially, we're growing in gutters, and it's plastic troughs or gutters that water is constantly running through, but because they're open, there's some airflow running through as well. And here's the big question, is it organic? Well, kind of. Organic farming requires a soil, and aquaponics doesn't contain soil, so we can't be certified organic. Now, in the future, I would foresee that being part of the USDA certification, but we tend to use like really natural, not use any chemical fertilizers. The only inputs we use is we use a little bit of iron. Fish aren't really producing iron. They have iron in them, but they're not producing iron. So we use a usable form of iron that we put in maybe once every 2 weeks, every so often. And the real reason that we use that addition is because it allows the pH to balance itself out, and then it allows other nutrients to be absorbed. So that's really the only addition, is the plant or the fish food and what the fish give us in waste, and then iron. And then if we have pests, any kind of traditional pesticide that you use that's fine to use on a garden, typically has copper in it. Well, copper is pretty toxic to fish. So we can't use anything with copper in it. So what we use is a neem oil, it's called, or a natural insecticidal soap. And there's 15 of us essentially that run the greenhouse, me and students. And so we use a mechanical method that is go kill all of those pests that are on that plant. And when you have a lot of eyes on them and you're working with these every day, it's a lot easier to catch them. We use sticky traps, beneficial insects we haven't gotten into yet, done a lot of research on it. But like ladybugs, for instance, or lacewings will help kill aphids. And they'll eat those, get rid of those for you naturally. So kind of use a variety of integrated pest management practices in the greenhouse. And as we grow, we will continue or expand in what we're growing. We'll continue to do that. So that is the basics of like the very quick overview. What is aquaponics? How does it work? So I wanted to give you that overview and then give you a quick tour so that you can see, or if you have questions, and see kind of what I'm talking about here. But before I do that, do you have any questions about any of this.
I don't, and there's nothing in the chat, and I would assume Patty would just speak up, but are you, do you feel like the kids are really excited about doing this and about having all this equipment right here at the school?
Yeah. So actually last year when we went, when we were, sent on quarantine in March, I actually had to call a couple kids and say, where did you put this? How did you put this together? Because I mean, it's greenhouse management as much as it is a plant science course. So a lot of times these students are building things, they're fixing things, they're putting things back together. Today I had two students, well, the other day we were talking about compost, and we have a big composting system, but we wanted to create something small for outside the greenhouse, just for soil that maybe had seeds that seedlings didn't make it, and we just want to let it sit for a little bit before we grow with it again. They're like, oh, well, we'll go check and see. I thought we had those last year, and they took them all apart, brought them over, put them all back together today. So they're doing just as much, if not more some days than I am, and really understanding how this system works. So they're doing a lot.
It sounds like an incredible real world experience that's just amazing.
Yeah, we definitely try to make it real world. I mean, as much as, we're cleaning up the greenhouse as much as we are planting in the greenhouse. So yesterday I got out 5 brooms and handed them out and said, we got to take care of this place too. So definitely getting some hands-on work experience.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to switch over so I can give you a quick tour.
Okay.
I feel like we should have had some music to play in the interim. Da, na, 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 na. Oh,
yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So I'm going to give you the grand tour. So this is as you walk in the greenhouse, this is the outside of the greenhouse. Everything is pretty much automatic. So you can see that there's a opening here. So airflow goes right through the greenhouse. So it's really, really warm today. So this is wide open so that we can get additional airflow in there. Then you head into the greenhouse. This is what we call our head house right here. So our head house is just for storage, cubbies, things like that. We have our aquaponics supplies and our soil-based supplies in here. And then we have the greenhouse. So as I was telling you about our system, so we start with the fish tank. Just going to.
Yeah. Oops.
Hey, Kayla, you're paused, just so you know. Your audio is off.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
So we have, it's gonna give you a glare a little bit, but we have our fish tank here. They are super excited anytime anybody walks by.
Food!
So they think that I'm gonna feed them. They already have been fed today, so I'm not going to do that.
What kind of fish do you use?
So our fish are tilapia. So as you can kind of see them. I know it's giving you a little bit of a weird glare, but you can see them swimming around in there. And as you see, there's a PVC pipe in the center of there. So what happens is, so these fish swim around, they eat, they give us waste, and there's water that goes through that PVC pipe. And then what happens is it goes from here to what we call a clarifier. So it flows through these PVC pipes up through here and into this clarifier. Then that water flows out through this pipe into the clarifier, the main job of the clarifier is to collect waste. So we have a little algae on top of it just because we have some waste. There's no harm in that. Solid and liquid waste go in here. This kind of helps solid waste flow to the bottom. So then it will come into what's called this media bed. So the media bed is essentially just rocks and water. So if you dig down, there is, you can see the water table right here. We do start to hit water. So it's not just rocks, but it's filled with water as well. We have some herbs growing in here and constant water flow into here from the clarifier, which comes from the fish tank. So fish tank, clarifier, media bed. And then it goes out of this media bed and it goes into this float bed here.
Oh,
Okay, so this float bed is essentially styrofoam with holes in it, and you have water and airflow down below. If I can get one of these out, I'll show you root systems, I think, is crazy. You don't usually get to see the root system in a plant unless it's potatoes or carrots, I guess. But
Wow.
there you go. So some chard growing in here that's pretty close to ready. This stuff definitely can be harvested. So that's what's growing here in the float bed. And then that water goes right back in through here into our fish tank. So that is like the basics of that system. And then we go over here into, this is our water testing cart. So kids are testing water a couple days a week. All their equipment is available for them. But then we have a large system. Now in this large system over here, it's essentially the same as the small system, but right now we don't have anything in it because, to make a long story short, we had some significant issues in March and April, May of last year. So we shut everything down and we opened up really slowly. So we have 2 fish tanks and those flow into a bigger clarifier and then into a big media bed and a big float bed. And then down here, we have these Nft racks. So this is probably one of my favorite growing spaces because I think they tend to grow the quickest and the best down here. So each spot on here is a grow space. This gets lifted off and there's constant water flow from the front over there to the back down here and then back into here and back to our main system.
Kayla, is there any difference in the growing time between something raised here compared to raised in the soil?
I haven't found it too much. We haven't really, just because I don't grow much in the soil here at school, we haven't timed it.
Okay.
But I have found that the Nft racks typically grow a little quicker than the float bed. And I think that has a lot to do with the airflow. And then we have our soil growing side. So you can see we have lots of hanging baskets. We have tons of things that have been seeded throughout the greenhouse. And we're excited to have a spring plant sale. So as I showed you outside, I showed you that vent that opened up. So we have what's called there's a cooling system in here. So when the, I'm gonna switch my camera. When it gets really warm, it hits certain levels. So first the roof vents will open up and allow some cool airflow in here. Some fans will turn on. And then this right here will turn on, or this will open up and allow airflow to come through here. Our fans across the greenhouse will turn on. So those 3 fans back there will turn on and it'll pull air across. And then this actually is connected to a water system. So it essentially is like a giant waterfall or a humidifier almost. So cold water flows through there and it's pulled through. So it's a giant air conditioner essentially that goes all the way down the greenhouse that helps cool everything in when it's really, really hot. I haven't turned the water on quite yet because we had snow last weekend. So I'm gonna wait a little bit until we turn that water on just because there's airflow through it. But that's kind of how the system is cooled and how we just keep a little bit more constant temperature in here.
Cool.
that's amazing.
It is.
Yeah. And then just a couple of neat things that we've been working on. So we have, all these beds to water, right? So we had a challenge and students built some irrigation systems. So we have some irrigation systems set up that have been very, very helpful at watering and keeping things
Irrigated.
ready to go and irrigated. Yeah.
How have you selected the plants, or have the kids had some sort of like, have they chosen some of the plants that they wanted to do?
Yeah. So we, a little bit of both. One, in the aquaponics system, I know that lettuces, chards, herbs, things like that grow really, really well. So we kind of stick with those in that area, and I let them choose like what kind we're going to grow, whatever month. And then if we're growing for a business, then we tend to like native, for instance, really likes this typical kind of Salanova lettuce, it's called. It's a really pretty purple lettuce, actually like a purple green lettuce. It's a smaller head. Looks really nice on a plate, so we will grow that for them. Some places, like a higher end restaurant, really likes Nasturtium flowers. So actually, we have some growing right here. So these are Nasturtium. These are just the leaves. We don't have flowers yet, but these are edible. They're spicy, a little horseradishy, if you ask me. But higher end restaurants tend to grow those. So that's one way that we choose them. As far as like the plugs that are all the flowers that we are growing, there was a team of students on our production team that decided what flowers that we wanted to grow. And then the production team also chose a lot of the seeds for the vegetables that we were going to grow. But basic garden vegetables is what we chose for this year. And then maybe we'll branch out again next year.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Who tends the everything during the summer when the kids aren't usually around? Is that just you? Okay.
In the future, we really hope to, this summer didn't require quite as much just because, as I had said, what happened is we had koi fish last year. Koi fish are a really cold water fish, so they did not fare well in a warm greenhouse. So we ended up getting a virus. We had to shut everything down. Greenhouse, got quarantined kind of as well. And so we didn't need as much help in the greenhouse in the summer. But this summer we will, because we'll be up and running. So there's a possibility to hire an intern through some grant funding or something like that, volunteer hours, and hopefully some more automated systems in here. So it's not quite as time consuming.
Okay.
Would they ever actually consider doing some sort of a summer program or a summer camp sort of situation?
Possibly, yeah. We really want to, there's definitely a possibility of that. We really want to make this a place that anyone can, it's a community educational facility, I guess. So hopefully we will branch out on some more programming in the future.
Neat.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm amazed.
Real, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm impressed.
Any other questions I can answer, or other things that you wanted to see more up close?
Oh, I'm just amazed with what you've shown us.
Can we just pop in and tour and give us a tour, or?
Unfortunately, no. But you could come to our plant sale and
Okay, so make sure you let us know when it is.
Yes, I will. I definitely will. I will show you one other thing quickly. We talked a little bit about aquaponics. There is a neat hydroponics project that we tried this year, so I'll quick show you that. And then I can answer any other questions that you have.
Great.
So I'm going to switch screens one more time.
Okay.
Okey-doke. Patty, we've been hogging her. Do you have anything you want to ask?
No, I was going to ask about the hydroponics because she had mentioned that she had that going. So it's good for her to show us that too. Yeah. I forget.
Okay.
I keep forgetting to unmute myself.
So this is our, can you hear and see okay?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Can you still see me if I'm over here?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So this is the hydroponics box that we built. So this might be, if you're looking for like a cool programming to do, we built these in class. They're pretty simple, probably like $10, $15 to build, depending on where you get the supplies.
But I had a lot of students that were online at the beginning of the year. And so I was trying to think, how do I replace a greenhouse facility that it's something that they can take home? So we built these hydroponic boxes. So this is just a 7-gallon tote from Home Depot. We drilled holes in the top of it. So just took a hole saw to the top of it, drilled some holes in there. And then we used these things, are called net pots, and they have holes in them. And what we do is we use this stuff called Rockwool. We will put our seedlings in here and put those right in the net pot, and we'll put them in top of here. Now this method is called the crack key system. If you want to look it up on, there's the crack key system. I'll put it in the chat later, but the Michigan Gardener is a guy that does a lot of crack key larger systems that I learned a lot of this from. You can look up online. So this essentially sits on top of the water. And the premise of this system is that this is just filled with water and hydroponic nutrients. So you can buy hydroponic nutrients at Home Depot, Agway, any kind of Amazon, places like that. So the idea is that water will be up to here so that your roots can have that airflow at the top, and then they'll just keep reaching for that water and grow longer down to the bottom. So essentially this is like a flow bed, but because we had seen in the greenhouse that airflow was really, really important, we actually bought some air pumps and some hoses and an air stone, like a small air stone that you put in a fish tank. We drilled a hole in the side, and then we just went and put our air stone in there just so there was extra airflow. And then you could fill it up a little bit more and have that airflow. So hydroponic nutrients go in this, but what's different, I guess, is the aquaponics system, we're never dumping it. We're just flushing it and letting that water flow all the way through and recycling that water. Hydroponics is a little harder to do that. So you sometimes have to add more water, add more nutrients, check your nutrients and things like that. But it's just a cool, unique system to try, easy for somebody to have, like on a bench at home, near a window at home, or with a small little grow light. So that's what we did. We only put 5 plants in that and went from there.
Cool.
So that's our hydroponic system. So that's what we did for our hydroponic system.
Patty, did that answer your hydroponics question? Oh. Okay.
There we go. Yep. Yes, it did.
Awesome.
I've
Awesome,
seen the
good.
systems. I've seen the hydroponic systems with the airflow. All of that tubing hooked up to the system.
Yeah.
So yeah, that it's a very clever miniature version of it.
Yeah, it worked out really well for kids at home, and even when we were quarantined between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and so right before I just said take them home, and we had them growing in here, and we're able to see is there a difference in the hydroponics versus aquaponics? We didn't have them in here for long, so we didn't really come to too many conclusions, but it's just a unique way for students to see, hey, I can do this at home. I can buy all these supplies from somewhere. So.
Cool.
Any other questions I can answer?
No.
Oh, this has been awesome to be able to see the greenhouse and see the program, Kayla.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So much for the I feel like we just got a private tour. So
Thank
Yes,
you.
you did.
thank you very, very much. And if people have questions afterwards, or if you have some resources that you want to send us, we'll send it out and post it with the recording. So
Okay.
that's up to you. But
Okay.
thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Kayla. We appreciate it.
And we'll look for the information on the plant sale.
Yes.
Sounds good. Great. Thank you
so
so much.
much.
Yep.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much. We'll be in
Good to
touch.
see you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Patty. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting this.
Oh, thanks for coming, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, I'm going to go back outside. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.